The other day, I got a question from a woman in the group who was asking me, why is my partner more interested in watching porn than having sex together? And I think you kind of hit on an element of it.
Yep. Yeah.
There's also no real risk, and there's a lot of affirmation that comes with
Yeah.
porn, I would imagine.
Yeah.
There's no rejection. It's not like you're not performing good enough or you're not big enough or whatever it might be.
I mean, straight up, Leah, anybody can get naked with enough alcohol, with enough drugs, with enough anything. Anybody can get naked. But if you really want to be vulnerable, you have to actually like be naked in your heart, be naked in your soul. That's fucking intimacy. Like I would have never, like, it's so cool being able to sit here and speak that to you and know it's true rather than reading it in a book and being like, oh, I guess that's true. Yeah. No, I've experienced enough heartbreak and enough hurting other people that I realized I was masking my own insecurity and my lack of vulnerability to actually be seen.
Yeah.
And so therefore I would use porn, use women, do all these things that dishonored the feminine for so long that I think karmically I'm still healing from. Right. And that's okay because I'm just being honest about it. Like it's all good. We're all healing. We all have our healing path. But this woman, my heart goes out to her because what she gets to do is put her man in a men's group immediately. Well, not put him, but like let him know that it's important to her that he goes. I lead a men's group as well. So we meet twice a month and I've been doing it for 5 years. We study the work of David Data and Robert Augustus Masters and even Esther Perel's journey as well. Like so many talented authors and teachers, both men and women that we follow, and all roads eventually lead to ego relaxation, healing capital T trauma or lower T trauma, and getting real with each other about what sexuality and what intimacy really is. And I mean, I'll definitely credit my partner. Like we have gone so deep in less than a year, in really like me being vulnerable and sharing with her about my past pornography addiction and sharing with her about my struggle with food. And she's had her own unique struggles, but it's that ability to just take a breath, put down the walls and be like, hey, I'm on a healing journey. Are you on a healing journey too? Because if that's true, then we can bring in the joy as well. But if we don't admit that we're on the healing journey, then we're never going to have place for joy. Joy can't get in because we're so focused on keeping the castle wall up, not being seen.
Yeah. You mentioned past wrongdoings or relational hurts, and that you're still working through that forgiveness process, forgiveness of yourself
Sure,
for doing
sure.
that. Can you
Yeah.
share for anyone in the group who might be feeling the same way what your process is around that? Forgiving yourself for past wrongdoing
Yeah.
when you weren't quite as conscious as you are now?
Yeah. And then this is so good. I love this conversation because I'll pre-frame it from what I've studied and like 400 podcasts. I do believe now that everything that our life is created from is the BTFA loop. We have a belief, we have a thought, we have a feeling, and then we have an action. So every single thing in the BTFA model, it all trickles down to what is my belief of any situation. It's almost like the belief is the lens on this camera. So we see life through a lens, and that lens is our belief system. And then that belief system actually seeks out what kind of feelings and thoughts we can experience, emotion living in the body, thoughts living in the mind. And then we go into the action, and the action is actually what dictates the path of our life. So for anyone that's dealing with karmic burn, that's where I feel like I am. I feel like I'm in a karmic burn. I feel like I burned off a lot, actually, like a lot. But I feel really good because I know that any kind of karmic burn that I'm going to experience in the future, like I have the tools to be with myself. And many, many women that I slept with or that I had relations with in my 20s, it wasn't necessarily the most conscious interactions. Now, granted, I never hurt anyone. I never abused anyone. I never took advantage of anyone, but I did take advantage of situations. And so there's healing that comes with that by actually, really owning up to what we've done. If we lived in a tribe back in the day and we hurt someone or something happened, we would all come in front of the village. We would admit our wrongdoings and we would cry, we would yell, we would do whatever we need to, and then we would be forgiven and moved on. But if we don't come to terms with the council within ourselves or within our community, I mean, this is even healing and cathartic right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people I've never met. I don't know many people here in the group. Just being able to admit and just be truthful about, hey, you know what? In my past, I've done some things that really I'm not proud of. but I do own the fact that I am committed to experiencing the karmic burn of them now and in the future, and I'm okay with it all. It's not being angry or like shameful about my past.
Yeah.
It's more like, let me just accept and surrender that, like, dude, you did the best you could. That was the consciousness you had at that time, and that was the growth path you were on. You needed to experience hurting other people. You needed to experience feeling guilty. You needed to experience addiction. You know, it's been many. It's been almost a year since I've even like consumed any kind of pornography whatsoever, and I don't have the drive to consume it either because um, I had a deep spiritual moment with a mentor that helped me guide me through that, and his name was Paul Check. He's been on the show a couple times.
Mhm.
And what he taught me was that any addiction, no matter what it is, OCD thoughts, addiction, sideways energy, they're all just a lack of being a father to myself. And so what I'm working on is being a father to myself, being a father to my business, being a father to my community, and really embodying that father archetype energy that is so healing. And everybody wants to be held by their mother or their father, right? But the father lives within me.
Mhm.
Like I am my own father. I take care of myself. So that's been my healing journey. And for this woman who's, struggling because her husband looks at a screen, that's your husband's path, or your man's path is for him to go down that route of, okay, why am I actually doing this in the first place? Am I validating that I'm not enough by creating a screen between me and intimacy? Is there trouble in our relationship that I'm scared to talk about with you? There's a myriad of things that could be driving him to watch porn, but I'll say from my own personal experience, it's a fear of actually being vulnerable. That is the number one reason why men watch porn, is because they are addicted to what it feels like when they can get the sexual reward without the vulnerability to pay.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, there's just like so much tenderness in that.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel it right now. It's like, you know what it is there's peace there. There's peace in surrendering to the fact that when you can just be honest about what's transpired without the presence of shame, judgment, or guilt, and just be honest about the stuff that's occurred, it's fucking cathartic.
Mhm.
Because then it's like, I mean, I'm getting tingles in my arms just talking to you. Like, this is why we're here on the planet, is to learn and move forward without the presence of beating ourselves with the shame drum or the guilt or all this stuff. And so what I monitor in my awareness now, Leah, is when the shame drum starts pounding, or when something comes up that I feel guilty about, or that I start to feel kind of that nauseous feeling about, I do my breath work. That's a big one. If I can breathe, I can choose my next step. And yeah, I mean, I'm even just feeling that right now. My heart goes out to all men that are caught in that cycle. I don't know what it's like to be a woman in that cycle. I know women do get in that cycle too. But just if I could plant a seed for any man watching, or any woman who's with a man that has that type of addiction, or that's looking at the screen, what they really need is softness and understanding. They don't need your anger or your edge. They need softness and understanding, and they need your courage to set a healthy boundary and say, if you're not willing to look at this, I love myself enough to leave.
Yep.
If you're not willing to look, I love myself enough to leave.
Could you give your best shot at a script? Let's say there's a woman who um, isn't able to take any more that disconnection. So
Yeah.
wanting to be sexually connected to her partner preferring to watch porn. Could you give us like 2 or 3 sentences that she could use to kind of kick off those boundaries and that conversation?
The first thing I would have her do is make sure that she's coming from her heart. And I'm sure this has happened in your group before, where there's exercises and ways of being to get you in your heart. A really powerful teacher in this is John Wineland. Connor's great at it too. Make sure that when you address your man with this, that you're actually going to be talking to his inner young man. You're going to be talking to his little boy inside. And so don't treat this like you're a mother screaming at a boy, or you're a woman screaming at a man. Like, really do your work before you go to him. Even schedule it. I would say the best thing to do would be like, hey baby, can we hang out tonight from 6:30 to 7? I really just want to drop in with you and connect. Like set the tone before you even get there.
Yeah.
Then once you get there, do your work to prepare, be in your heart, look into his eyes. I mean, that's just magic for men. If your man's conscious in any way and he is here and he's not asleep, he'll love the fact that you're in your heart. The greatest gift you could ever give to a man is for you to be in your heart. I mean, God, that's like, it's just, it makes me smile just thinking about it. So you do that, and that's your prep. And then the sentence you could say to him is, I've been feeling sad lately. I've been feeling stressed out lately. I've noticed that I feel when we have sex or when this topic comes up, that I feel fill in the blank. I feel neglected. I feel like I miss you, whatever it is. And I'm concerned about the health of our relationship. Notice how during that time, you're not saying, I want you to stop watching porn, or I think your porn is messing us up. You're turning it on yourself as his loving partner. You're in your heart. Maybe you cry. Maybe you cry. Cool. And just start with that. So set the time, ask for permission, um, be in your heart, express from an I am perspective, not you are, and just see where that goes, and just continue to be in your breath as you do it. I think that's the best start. But um, yeah, we all know. I think every man knows. Every man knows when he's got a problem. It takes men sometimes longer than others, depending on their level of work that they've done, their self awareness work. I mean, I can look back on a journal that I did like 7 years ago, and I was like, "Do I have a porn problem?" Question mark. Like 7 years ago. So it took a while.
Mhm.
You know, it
Yeah.
took quite some time for me to swallow that and to ride the dragon.
Yeah.
That's a great start for anyone.
Yeah. And I would also acknowledge that it takes a lot of courage for a woman to initiate that conversation. I know
Absolutely.
personally, I've had several experiences, even recently, with men. I'm 38, men in their late 30s, even through their late 40s,
Sure.
where when I gently and lovingly express what's in my heart, they leave. Like they just disappear without really any word. And
Mhm.
so it's taken a lot of work on my end to get to a place where I continue to express my heart and, and have the courage to show up authentically. And from that place, detach from how they respond.
Yeah, that is work. You know, it's interesting. Like, I feel like this is pertinent. It's the man's responsibility to tune in that situation, and it's the woman's responsibility to be courageous and to say, "This is what I'm willing to take."
Mhm,
It's the same thing with like the Me Too, the We Too. Like, yeah, it's the man's responsibility to tune in. Like, if she's not feeling it, you kind of know,
mhm.
and it's her responsibility to say no. So there's work on both sides. You know, it's never one or the other.
Right.
And I think that God, building this courage is the most important thing. I mean, courage is like, if there was one tool that people could build that for relationship and business, it is the courage to stop, sense, breathe, feel, and then express. That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's an everyday practice that I think gets easier over time, but it like never goes away.
Right.
Definitely never goes away.
Yeah. And I think also there have been moments where I have been courageous enough to share. And then I've energetically picked up that they weren't able to receive it. And so I've shrunk. And I
Mm.
think courage part two would be not shrinking in response to their reaction.
There's a blend of two things, because if you're in your heart and you're expressing, and inside of you it feels like you're really connected to what you're saying, and he belittles you, or he doesn't want to connect, or whatever it is, you need to let him know, like, there's a timeline for this.
Mhm.
Like, if you have, let's say, 3 to 5 of those sessions where you sit with him, you're in your heart, you use the I am language, and you express to him your truth, and maybe you cry, maybe you don't, but he can feel you, and you do that 3 to 5 times. I think if your man doesn't respond in any way, or if he doesn't somehow come to grips with what's going on, I think you might be with the wrong man. It's a
Mhm.
sign that you might be with the wrong man.
Yeah.
Over the course of 3 months, or 6 months, if you bringing this up and there's no work that he wants to do, you might not be with a man who's ready to grow, and that's okay. Because look, every woman deserves to be ravished, and loved and all these things. And every man deserves that too, but it's our work inside of ourselves that blocks this from occurring. It's an organic thing. So we have to feed and water it together. If he's not willing to feed and water, and you are coming to him with all the tools we talked about, then you might just want to go to a new place and grow some new fruit, some new produce, Easier said than done, but I think that's the path.